people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Another look at the upcoming Claressa Shields versus Lonnie Daniels fight, as Claressa Shields is staying active and looking to fill the building. Undisputed heavyweight champion and consensus pound-for-pound queen, Claressa Shields, is staying active and wants to add to her already unparalleled resume. Shields is scheduled to defend her heavyweight titles against IBF light heavyweight champion Lonnie Daniels next month on the 26th at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. The bout will stream on DAZN. Shields, 16-0 with 3 KOs, has a long list of achievements. She is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. She is a 3-division undisputed champion. Rarely has she ever been challenged, except perhaps by activity. She boxed only once per year in 2023 and 2024. The question is why?
Because there's nobody up there.
Really nobody to fight at those weights where Claressa campaigns. Claressa said the girls at the higher weight classes are fighting each other. Shields, a 30-year-old from Flint, Michigan, told Boxing Scene, "It was so hard for me to get fights at 154, 160, and 168. I don't think any of my fights at heavyweight have been hard to make, to be honest with you," Shields said. "I am just fighting who will fight me. It just has to have some history on the line. I want to fight for some belts." The reason the fights at heavyweight might be easier to make than Claressa Shields' fights before is because these fighters at heavyweight don't have any money behind them. There are no big names, no high-profile fighters. The big promotional outfits don't have any prize stallions at those weights, so making fights there is relatively easy whenever you can make a fight. But of course, because so few women fighters campaign at those weights, there are only so many people around you can make a fight with. Shields has consistently fought the best available opposition during her title reigns at super middle, middle, and junior middle, and defeated them all. Her record includes wins over Hannah Gabriels, Christina Hammer, Savannah Marshall, among others. I think a lot of these girl fighters are good, but I think I will be the one in the history books because of my longevity, the Olympic gold medals, and how I continue to fight the best, Shields said. "I think I have one of the biggest spots in women's sports ever." Well, you'd never know it from the reception this fight is getting. Rather, the reception that it's not getting. Nobody's buzzing about this thing because everybody expects Claressa to plow through Lonnie. And that's the other thing, that the people on this side of the world don't know the first thing about Lonnie Daniels. She's just some girl, somebody to throw in there with Claressa, so why would they be excited? "I was the first woman to make $1 million in boxing," Shields said. "We are building a great blueprint for the girls coming after us." Claressa was not the first woman to make $1 million in the postmodern era. That was Katie. Lonnie Daniels, 11-2 with 2 draws and 1 recorded knockout, is a 36-year-old from Pipawai, New Zealand, and is riding a 7-fight winning streak since 2022. She is a 2-time world champion, and she is coming to fight, Shields said. "I am looking forward to being inside the ring with her and being challenged and seeing if someone could take me off my, quote, greatest woman of all time status." Well, if she's not the first woman to make $1 million from boxing, why is she saying that? I mean, this is well documented. It's well recorded that Katie Taylor was making 7-figure purses while Claressa was complaining about Showtime not paying her enough. So, if Claressa's saying this, it must be from some need, some desire to seem more of a pioneer than she actually is, that she is shattering all of these glass ceilings. Another thing of importance for Shields is the attendance for her fights. The Little Caesars Arena has a capacity of 19,000, and she wants to sell it out. "I am a one-woman army. I want to let people know I don't have a stable of 100 females for me to change women's boxing," she said. "I have done with myself, Salida Promotions, and God. for the longest. I am hoping once I sell 19,000 tickets, they can stop that myth that I don't sell tickets.
It's not a myth.
Did you sell 10,000, 15,000, 19 with Vanessa Joanese? Did you sell that with Danielle Perkins?
No.
Did you sell that with Maricela Cornejo?
No.
Shields wants to stay true to herself as she continues her remarkable career. There is not a certain type of woman boxer who sells tickets, Shields said. You can be different, you can be loud, you can be confident and still sell tickets and have a great career while being the best.
Do I think she's gonna sell 19,000 tickets with a New Zealander that nobody in America knows? Short answer, no.
Nope, sorry.
Because nobody knows Lonnie Daniels, and Claressa is not exactly well liked.
Always the odd guy that gets mad at me for pointing that out. Whenever I talk about Claressa, they bring up her accomplishments. Who gives a damn about her accomplishments? People either like you or they don't. Because people don't like her that much, I do not expect her to sell 19,000 tickets. The only way you get 19,000 people in that building for that fight is if you give most of the tickets away.
It's the only way.
So if she is using herself as an example of how you can be abrasive and overbearing and still be a draw, this fight won't be that example.
The only way you can be that disliked and still sell a bunch of tickets is with the right dance partner, and that is not Lonnie Daniels.
It's really not any girl in the heavyweight division because nobody knows who those women are. Always get the odd guy who gets upset at me for pointing that out. There's no need to be childish about it. People don't like Claressa, they don't know Lonnie Daniels, and this fight will not sell 19,000 tickets.
She's accomplished.
No one said she isn't, but accomplishments in and of themselves do not equate to fanfare.
The ticket sales.
Earlier today in the Land of the Rising Sun, Brian Norman Jr. flattened Jin Sazaki in 5 to retain the WBO welterweight title! The timing could not have been better for Brian Norman Jr. to deliver his performance. A pair of opening round knockdowns set the tone for his eventual 5th round knockout of Tokyo's Jin Sazaki. The visiting WBO welterweight champion ended the fight with a monstrous left hook that put Sazaki down and out at 0:46 of the 5th round on Thursday from the Ota City General Gymnasium in Tokyo, Japan, as the Japanese watched in horror.
Brian Norman beat this guy easy. Beat him up, then beat him down.
That was a very fun fight, Norman Jr. told ESPN after his second successful title defense. Jin Sazaki came to fight. I got nothing but respect for him. I can't wait to come back here.
Yeah, hard to say when that would be or why, when the Japanese don't have a high abundance of welterweight contenders for Brian to pounce on.
Brian Norman, 28-0 with 22 KOs, delivered a knockout of the year contender less than 24 hours after Jaron Ennis announced that he is done at welterweight and moving up to junior middle. The move by Ennis leaves a vacancy, not just with the WBA and IBF titles, but at the top of the welterweight division. That void may have already been filled. Norman Jr. did not waste any time in his first fight outside of North America.
The unbeaten 24-year-old from the greater Atlanta, Georgia area sent Sazaki to the canvas barely 30 seconds into the fight. Courtesy of a left hook to the temple, Sazaki beat the count but was back on the deck less than a minute later after he was clipped by another left hand. Norman Jr. remained composed even as Sazaki, 23, launched a series of left hooks in the final minute of the round. The top-ranked promoted titleist was confident that a knockout was on the way, but he wouldn't waste any punches to get to that moment.
No, he took a measured approach with Jin Sazaki. Jin did half the work for him, opening up as much as he did, punching as wide as he did.
I just go out there, have fun, and be myself, Norman Jr. said afterwards of his game plan. I'm a very diverse fighter. I can brawl if you want to. I can box if you want to. There's still more to show y'all. I'm working on a lot of things.
Sazaki was quickly reduced to false bravado in his first career title fight. He spent most of the 3rd round egging on the defending champion. Norman Jr. refused to bite and continued to score with left hooks, as well as flush right hands around Sazaki's high guard.
Target practice.
Norman Jr. continued the one-sided attack in the 4th, before he emphatically closed the show 1 round later. Sazaki was drawn in and clipped with a vicious left hook to put him flat on his back. no count was necessary because the referee Gustavo Thomas waved off the contest and immediately signaled for medical attention.
Sazaki, 19-2 with 1 draw and 17 knockouts, was down for several minutes but responsive during his in-ring examination. The spirited challenger was in good spirits, all things considered, given he was taken out of the ring on a stretcher. Norman Jr., 28-0 with 22 KOs, retained his WBO title with his second knockout win in less than 3 months.
But there is some uncertainty to address moving forward because the story is Top Rank's final fight of their existing ESPN deal is towards the end of next month. And the month after that, in August, they're not going to be doing any shows. That's the word around the campfire.
It's the word on the street.
So when can we expect to see Brian Norman get back out there? Fall? Winter? When?
Top Rank are the ones who promote him, and Top Rank seem to be in between broadcasters right now.
And it's not just the broadcast situation, there is also the opponent situation. Finding opponents for Brian Norman after a highlight reel knockout like that.
The fans would say that Brian is a star in the making.
But the promoters and the managers might say, he's a hot potato, he's more trouble than he's worth, and we don't need to fight him. That applies to Rolly like it applies to Ryan. That applies to Ryan like it applies to Devin Haney, Teofimo.
The one guy who was interested in fighting Brian Norman officially announced yesterday that he's moving up to junior middle, and to that, Brian had some choice words. He said, "I wish I had a certain fight coming up."
He's talking about Boots.
They heard the B-Norm storm was coming. You know what happens when the storm is coming? They grabbed their boots and ran. So we shall see what's next for me. Hopefully we can get back in October or November.
Now people are reacting to Brian Norman's highlight reel knockout of Jin Sazaki, as well as what he had to say about Boots. Dan Canastota of CompuBox had this to say.
Shout out to Brian Norman. That's what you're supposed to do with an overmatched opponent. He knocked him out. He made some headlines after by calling out Boots or mentioning Boots. Are we just going to pretend that he didn't turn down almost $2 million to fight Boots last year?
You obviously made overtures and offers in his direction for a Boots fight. You think there's a bit of regret there that they've lost that opportunity?
No, I just think they don't want the Boots fight. I mean, we offered them 1.8 million before, and they asked for 2 million. And then something happened, I can't remember now. And then this time, we went back after the Stanionis fight, and we said, "Oh, we'll give you the 2 million." And they said, "Oh no, we're going to Japan." And I said, "No, I know that, but let's lock it in for later in the year."
Yeah.
And they said, "No, we don't want to talk about any fights till after the Japan fight." I'm like, "Why?" "I don't know, because we're just focused on that." It's like, well, I know Brian's focused on that, but your team, Top Rank, were happy to do the deal.
Yeah.
But Brian wasn't. So
That's boxing for you. So Brian Norman is a champ at 147. I think it's his division right now. You got Mario Barrios in it fighting Manny Pacquiao next month. There's unification there. The other two belts are now vacant because Boots has moved up. And the funny thing about the Teofimos, the Haneys, the Ryan Garcias, and the Rollies, who I think will be fighting at 147 sometime soon, is that Rolly is the only guy out of those four that has won a fight at 147. He's the WBA secondary holder. I like Norman against Barrios. I like Norman against Haney. Teofimo, call out Brian Norman. I mean, that fight is right there. Rolly versus Brian Norman is in play. Most importantly, Brian Norman is a young, powerful American star or American champ. And he's in a glamour division, and there's some fun fights to be made. Who will step up right now?
I am not falling out of my chair with excitement over Brian Norman's win against Jin Sazaki because I said he was going to win. I said it several times in several episodes of The Relay, in the build-up of today's fight, and more recently yesterday on yesterday's live stream.
In case you missed it.
This fight may be decided by who throws the tighter hooks, the more defensible punches, that you're not way out here somewhere, whole side of your face exposed. And in that regard, I believe that Brian is better, and so I expect Big Brian to win the fight.
No surprises. Brian Norman Sr. is already taking a trash talking Boots and his team. I guess they like trash talk more than they like money because Boots was the only one offering these guys any real money for a fight. But yesterday he announced that he's moving up. I liked the more measured approach from Brian Norman in this fight. He didn't go out there looking for Jin Sazaki because he didn't have to. Jin was looking for him. Because you could fit a sofa in between his punches, swinging as wide as he was, the countering opportunities were all there. The first knockdown was off a left hook, and the final knockdown was also off a left hook, and that's what I figured. That these two guys are cut from a similar cloth, but Brian's hooks are a lot shorter, tighter, and more defensible. His punches overall, where Jin is more reckless and uncoordinated. There to be hit, there to be exploited, and that's what Brian Norman did as a traveling champion, a defending champion on away soil. He made the most of it, but now he's in the shit. Now he's in the crapper, because while the fans might look at a highlight reel knockout like that and think to themselves, Brian's star is rising, his contemporaries, his competitors, and the people that handle them, they're thinking to themselves, what are we gonna waste time on this guy for? He ain't worth no money. He had to go to Japan for his next payday. Top Rank did not care enough about this guy to bring Jin Sazaki to him. They brought him to Jin Sazaki. So what are we gonna waste time with a hard-punching guy like him for? He's a good fighter. I'm not saying that he isn't. But because he's a good fighter who isn't worth a lot of money, that's why they won't fight him. Could you imagine if Brian Norman hit Devin Haney like that, with a left hook like that? We know he's susceptible to the left hook. The Ryan Garcia fight. How many left hooks did Ryan land? And how many more would Brian land? Being honest, I don't think it would take that many to wrap Devin Haney up like a gift. I think one solid left hook from Brian Norman, and Brian would stop Devin, and he would stop a lot of these young guys, not just Devin, Ryan, Rolly, maybe Teofimo, and these young fighters will elect to either box each other or not box at all before they roll the dice with Brian. That is the situation now. Teofimo did not like his chances against the light-punching Devin Haney enough to accept 8 million or 11 million or whatever it was. He didn't like his chances against that guy, right? Right. Do you think he likes his chances against this one? Or Rolly Romero, who's on the eve of becoming a two-weight world champion after the Ryan Garcia fight made it clear. He's targeting the winner of Pacquiao versus Barrios. I don't think Brian Norman is an active thought in his pea-sized brain. I don't think Brian is on his radar. So while it's good that Brian Norman made short work of Jin Sazaki with minimal effort and racked up a highlight reel knockout, here and now is where things are going to get difficult. Not just because of the broadcast situation with Top Rank, but because of the opponents. They're gonna freeze him out. Which one of those youngsters that moved up from 135 and 140 are you expecting to roll a dice with Brian? I say none of them. Okay, what about the rest of the division? I think that Brian Norman would be lucky to land in a Montes Stanionis fight. That's how bad I think it's about to get for Brian. So you can talk your shit, talk shit about Boots, gloat, whatever you want to do. But I can only deduce that you like talking shit more than you like money, since none of those other guys are gonna offer you any real money for a fight, and the only guy that did, he just left. He's going to 154. Brian, in the absence of Jaron Ennis, has the tools to rule this division. He has the ability, and how some will elect to contend with that ability is to not contend with it at all, not deal with it at all.